November 12, 1993 in Denver, Colorado was the night of UFC 1, which may seem like a long time ago, but that is nothing compared to the storied histories of other professional sports dating back hundreds of years. Still, MMA has been steadily growing, and with it so have the number of historical moments. Of course, in professional fighting, nothing beats the knockout. That is why we're breaking down some of the most brutal KOs in mixed martial arts history. But before we get into that, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content. Now, without further ado, and in no particular order, let's knock this out. Stephen Thompson versus Dan STITTGEN. Typically, the most violent strikes happen when a foot or shin lands on the button of an unsuspecting victim. Dan STITTGEN would concur with this sentiment after wearing a Stephen Thompson head kick at UFC 143. Just as Thompson threw a jab overhand right combination, STITTGEN answered with a looping left hook that left an opening on the left side of his jawline. Thompson instinctively felt the opportunity and immediately heaving a right head kick that clipped STITTGEN flush on the jaw. Wonderboy attempted to deliver a finishing blow, only to have referee Josh Rosenthal step in to save the day. Thompson went home with a $65,000 check for knockout of the night in his promotional debut. Junior Dos Santos versus Mark Hunt. After going blow for nearly 3 rounds with Mark Hunt at UFC 160, former heavyweight champ Junior Dos Santos pulled off a maneuver that no one at the MGM Grand Garden Arena saw coming. Sagano first stunned Hunt with a left hook with 1:23 to go in the 3rd round. Roughly 40 seconds later, the Brazilian used a jab with his left hand to set up a perfectly timed spinning wheel kick with his right leg. The bottom of Dos Santos' calf grazed the top of Hunt's head, sending the thick-skulled Samoan crashing to the canvas. Sagano landed a few more punches before referee Steve Mazzagatti could save Hunt from any further punishment. Most who knew Edson Barboza prior to his spinning wheel kick over Terry Etim believed that the Brazilian lightweight could pull off such a low-percentage finishing move. However, few envisioned a 6'4", 240-pound Sagano nailing the maneuver. Rashad Evans versus Sean Salmon. Before UFC Fight Night 8, pundits considered Rashad Evans a raw wrestler with a propensity to control and do damage on the ground. Few experts tabbed him as a natural knockout artist who possessed significant pop in his punches and kicks. All of that changed when he landed a beautifully timed kick on Sean Salmon's jawline early in the 2nd round at UFC Fight Night 8. The second that Salmon lowered his left hand, Evans fired a high kick that found his chin, immediately rendering the former Ohio State University wrestler unconscious. Referee Troy Waugh stepped in to stop Evans just as the former light heavyweight champ landed a pair of follow-up punches that made Salmon's toes curl. LYOTO Machida versus Randy Couture. While watching Randy Couture cap his career with a KO loss felt unsavory, it seemed fitting that karate master LYOTO Machida delivered the kick that made Daniel LaRusso famous in The Karate Kid at UFC 129. Machida didn't wait for Couture to drop his paws. Instead, the Dragon momentarily deterred Couture's attention with a feint of his left foot. An instant after faking a left front kick, Machida leaped into the air and slipped a right crane kick through Couture's hands. Machida's foot spiked off Couture's jaw, snapping his head back and knocking the Hall of Famer into a temporary unconsciousness. Fortunately for Couture, referee Yves Levine recognized his dire state and pulled Machida off his back before any unnecessary blows could be dropped in the former 2-division champ's farewell bout. Marius ZAROMSKIS versus Jason High. It looked like Jason High would never wake up after wearing a Marius ZAROMSKI shin to his jawline at Dream 10. ZAROMSKIS backed up High with a 2-punch combination and then got the former NCAA Division I wrestler to drop his hands before unleashing a head kick from hell. ZAROMSKI's chin smacked flush off High's jawline and floored the Nebraskan. High had already begun snoring before the referee could intervene. Amazingly, ZAROMSKIS beat Japanese legend Hayato Sakurai earlier in the night with a similar head kick and follow-up punches. Gilbert YVEL versus Gary Goodridge. In just his 2nd fight with Pride, then 24-year-old Gilbert YVEL let the MMA world know that he could take out a 6'3", 240-pound Gary Goodridge with just a single kick at Pride 10. YVEL pawed at Goodridge and distracted the Canadian enough to get him to drop his right hand. YVEL then heaved a left high kick that Goodridge mistook for a body kick. YVEL's foot caromed off Goodridge's skull, instantly dropping Big Daddy and rendering him unconscious. Although the Hurricane went on to notch 12 additional knockouts in his career, none wowed fans or haunted an opponent quite like that head kick. Edson Barboza vs. Terry Etim. Edson Barboza's spinning head kick knockout of Terry Etim was one for the record books. This knockout was like something out of a movie. Barboza spun around in lightning-quick fashion, and his heel smashed into Etim's face. Terry froze in place for a second before falling back to the canvas, his rigid body resembling a tree falling over. That smack against the mats was just soul-crushing. Gabriel Gonzaga vs. Mirko Cro Cop. Gabriel Gonzaga's head kick knockout of Mirko Cro Cop at UFC 70 was a huge moment for Cro Cop fans who really wanted him to succeed in the UFC. Most fans expected him to demolish Gonzaga, but instead, Gabe shocked the world by unleashing a terrifying head kick that rendered Cro Cop unconscious before he even hit the mat. Mirko's foot was turned 180 degrees as it was trapped under his limp body. This was a very scary knockout, and it looked like Mirko was dead. Of course he wasn't, and you'll see him pop up later on in this video. Pete Williams vs. Mark Coleman. Few heavyweights wanted to lock horns with a highly motivated Mark Coleman after the former Olympic wrestler got upset by Maurice Smith to squander his belt at UFC 14. Originally, Coleman was set to tangle with Randy Couture in his ensuing bout at UFC 17. But Couture suffered an injury during training, which gave Lions Den product and UFC newcomer Pete Williams an opportunity to fight the Hammer. Williams and Coleman engaged in a slugfest for the 12-minute regulation round. Once the overtime period started, however, the Hammer was running on fumes. Williams recognized Coleman's desperate state and let him have it early in the overtime round. Just 38 seconds in, Coleman dropped his hands and opened the door for an unforgettable finish. Williams, who was sporting a pair of wrestling shoes, unloaded a high kick that smashed Coleman square on the chin and put the Ohio native to sleep. Williams set a new trend that night in Alabama in 1998, and he became the first fighter in UFC history to end a bout with a high kick. Anderson Silva vs. VITOR Belfort. Anderson Silva defended his UFC middleweight championship against Belfort at UFC 126. After a slow opening few minutes, the action began to pick up as the two dynamic strikers began to trade shots. It looked like it was shaping up to be a fight for the ages, until Silva shocked the world with a beautiful front kick straight up the middle, the sole of Anderson's foot crashing into Vitor's face. Belfort slumped to the canvas and was quickly finished by Silva in one of the many highlight reel knockouts of Anderson's legendary career. Mirko Cro Cop vs. Wanderlei Silva. Mirko Cro Cop's brutally violent destruction of Wanderlei Silva is yet another example of the powerful head kick. Mirko was famous for his head kick knockouts. His head kick KO of Igor Vovchanchin was a sight to behold. A personal fan favorite was Mirko's knockout against Wanderlei Silva in the Pride FC 2006 Openweight Grand Prix. Mirko beat the brakes off of Silva before knocking out the tough Brazilian with his trademark left high kick. Just be warned that Wanderlei's neck snapping to the side as Cro Cop's leg bounces off his skull makes for some uncomfortable viewing. Holly Holm vs. Ronda Rousey. Another top KO was by far Holly Holm derailing the Ronda Rousey hype train with a beautiful head kick. The increasingly arrogant Rousey defended her UFC Women's Bantamweight title against Holly Holm. Ronda was utterly outclassed by Holm that night, and Holm punctuated the one-sided drubbing with a violent head kick, which separated Ronda from her senses and one of the greatest head kick knockouts in MMA history. Uriah Hall vs. Adam Cella. No knockout in the history of The Ultimate Fighter epitomized brutality, accuracy, and showmanship quite like Uriah Hall's spinning hook kick on Adam Cella. Team Sonnen's Hall not only executed the low-percentage finishing move, he also delivered it square on the bottom of Cella, forcing the Team Jones member into a chilling state of unconsciousness. Cella stopped moving his feet for a few seconds, and even though his hands were hovering near his chin, he stood directly in Hall's wheelhouse. Hall activated his fast-twitch muscle fibers and whipped his heel around the back of Cella's right ear. The Missouri native lost consciousness and began snoring before hitting the mat, which put a look of concern on Hall's face and prompted the Jamaican to issue an apology. Although Cella eventually came to and tried to trivialize the finish, none of his remaining roommates were laughing at the prospect of facing Hall. And that is all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content. This has been our breakdown of some of the most brutal KOs in MMA history. MMA